Hello, 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 and welcome to today's podcast of Her Version, a podcast dedicated to hearing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. If you are new to this podcast, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and share. Today, we have an amazing guest speaker with us, Sophia Giraldo.
Yeah.
Sophia is the mother of three handsome boys and is here to share a story of light and hope. Looking at Sophia now, you would never know the challenges she endured in her younger years and well into her adult years. She is here to tell her story in order to reach out to all the young women out there that are struggling with their self-worth and beauty. She teaches women the importance of redefining their beauty and trusting in the process of life.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good, Sabrina. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to hang out with me and the viewers here on Her Version. I appreciate that.
Oh, no problem. I'm so excited.
Awesome. How was your weekend, by the way? You were telling me you did something with kids.
Yes, it was great. My church is doing a summer program for kids. And so over the weekend, I trained with a lot of other adults. We were getting ready, getting our program together, getting our songs together. I'm leading, we call it worship. And so there's this song with all these motions. And so I'm scrambling to memorize the motions so that I don't look crazy up there for the kids. So we had a lot of fun.
Wait, so you teach the kids motions and then do they perform it?
They don't perform it. I mean, they sing it with us. We might perform it on Sunday, but I kind of teach the song, and then the song has motions to help them, memorize it. And
yes.
This, I'm telling you, I was practicing, and I pretty much got my workout in.
Yes, I was gonna say.
It's that serious.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
You know they love that so much more than just singing too.
Oh yeah, and it helps. Them. It helps it memorize. It helps them memorize it. So
yes. Plus, you're secretly working them out for sure.
Getting all that.
I remember my son and I, when we first moved down to Florida, we lived right on the ocean. Mm-hmm. And I used to take him. Most parents after school would tell their kids to do homework. Yeah. Well, me, right after school, I would already have my bathing suit on and our boogie boards ready. Oh, nice. And we would go boogie boarding right after school for fun, but it was actually a workout.
Yeah. And kids like that. You got to make it fun.
Yeah. When you trick them like that, it works out brilliantly.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. And then we also got the sun in, a little bit of sun.
Yeah.
So listen, I appreciate you being here. I would love to, dive into your backstory, the things you've gone through. What you have going on now is amazing. But I really like people to kind of see, the challenges and the struggles that some of us have gone through in our past that you don't necessarily know about because, at this point in our lives, we're shining bright.
Right.
So if you don't mind, opening up a little bit about your younger years and married, early married life, but kind of, let us know what happened.
Yeah. Oh, man. So I probably did a lot of what your viewers did. I, went to school, went to college, graduated, got that JOB, and then I'm in New York now. So I moved up here and met a man and got married. And that was pretty that was it. Like there was nothing extraordinary, nothing out of the blue. And I heard this quote one time and it really it was like, this hit me so much because it said that trauma, when you go through trauma, it's not measured by the severity, but it's measured by the surprise. And it hit me because that was me, everything was fine, going along life as usual. And my trauma came about by surprise. I've been in the beauty space for over 15 years now. I love to help women with their inside beauty, but I started with the outside beauty because I love glam. I'm a girly girl. I have 6 sisters. And that's what we did. And so I'm out here working with women, helping them become beautiful on the outside with their skincare game, their makeup. And nobody knew that I was coming home and I was dealing with a lot of problems of, self-worth and doubt and can I do it? And, all of that stuff. And it was probably like a lot of us, our family of origin, some of those seeds were planted, But I think that things really started to, like, I guess, shoot, the seedlings started to come up in my marriage, because when I was 6 months pregnant with my oldest son, he'll be 10 next week. I can't believe it. It's craziness. But when I was 6 months pregnant with him, I found out, I'm sitting in the bedroom, we're talking about the baby, all the exciting, newness, about to become new parents. And so we're sitting there talking about that. And I didn't know that my husband had some news of his own. And so he launches into this whole thing. And long story, to bring that long story forward, found out that he was struggling with a pornography addiction. And for me, I think in that moment, because I was pregnant, I was just like, you know what, clouds, Lord, let this go away. Like, you get some help, and let's keep it moving. And that was like my response. That was my response. I had my baby. Things are going fine. He's 7 months, and the whole issue comes up again. And I think at that time, I started to feel like, okay, this is bad. Like, what does this say about me as a woman? What does it say about me as a person? And I tell people that it's like when let's say you have a family member that works in an office, your husband works in an office, and you go visit him in the office, and you know how people have those picture frames up and they have their cubicle decorated and everything. So you go in there and you see his cubicle decorated, you see all these picture frames, but his picture frames are backwards. And so you go over to his desk and you turn over a picture frame expecting to see you in the frame, and it's somebody else. That's the feeling that I kind of got, like what is this?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where my I guess where the trauma, the surprise about that, it just those seedlings started to pop up and started to really hit at my self-worth.
Wow. Was he open and honest about that?
Probably as open and honest as he could be. I didn't know about it when we first got married, so that was definitely not open and honest. But I think at that point he was probably, as open and honest as he could be. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand that. What other things did you endure during that time?
Well, so like I said, when my oldest was 7 months, the issue came up again. And at that point I was kind of ready to, like, okay, let's get this. We got to tackle this. This is not, that thing. So I personally started jumping into my own personal recovery. I started learning a lot about betrayal trauma. And like I said, the surprise and how that affects you emotionally and mentally. I started to learn about boundaries. I don't think I grew up with good boundaries. And so I started to learn that boundaries were actually healthy, and there was something safe to protect me, and that it was more about me and what I need to feel safe. And so I started to use them, I started to say, no, I don't like this. No, this is not going to work for me. Or, this is what I need, or I'm going to remove myself from this situation if it's not comfortable, if it's not safe. And I'm sure Sabrina, when you start putting up boundaries, people like, wait a minute, what's going on? It changes the dance, okay? It changes.
Yeah.
So I changed that dance, and I started to get some pushback. And so at that moment, I started to have to deal with a lot of, and I didn't know that it was abuse because I didn't have a reference point for it, but I started to deal with a lot of that, emotional abuse, financial abuse, just a lot of mess. And so I had to learn how to navigate that thing. And I think that for a long time, I was pretty much living in survival mode. I had baby number 2, I had baby number 3. And so I am a stay-at-home mom. I was a stay-at-home mom. So I was navigating bringing up baby and betrayal trauma. That's an abuse. That's what I was doing. And it was crazy. It was really crazy. But, I'm a God girl, and he was very, very gracious to me. Very gracious to me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So there's, obviously, there's so many women who are dealing with very similar circumstances. What were some of because this is the issue, and you hit it real good. Like, you don't realize sometimes that you're being abused.
Right.
And especially if you didn't have like an ideal, which so many, eons of people didn't have the ideal situation growing up to be able to compare it as to what's healthy and what's not healthy.
Right.
What, like, looking back, women who are watching right now, what are some of the things, like, what are some of the silent little things that you're feeling or that they're seeing or
Right.
questioning
Good.
that you can give us?
That's good. Um, I think looking back, they always talk about hindsight. And I think, you get in a situation like, oh my God, like, how did I get here? I didn't see anything. Like, what is going on? And then when I sat down and, became still, you could look back and say, okay, that was there and I didn't pay attention. And so I think one thing was you have to look and see if somebody's being open, I guess, as far as communication. Is there a give and take? Not just, you say something and the other person listens, but if you say something like, let's use, I don't know, let's use air conditioner since it's summertime. If your partner's coming in and this is a really like little example, but if your partner's coming in every day and turning on the air conditioner and it's really bothering you, and it's making you cold or whatever, it's making you feel uncomfortable, and you go and you say first time, hey, like, this is bothering me, like, it's not, I can't, can you turn it off? And they're like, yeah, okay, they turn it off. And then they keep doing it. And then you have, okay, let me sit down and talk about this. So you sit down and you're like, okay, this air conditioner situation is really bothering me. Like, it makes me feel uncomfortable. And you start describing like all the effects that it's having on you negatively. Could you please not do that? Because, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, yeah, okay, sure. And they keep doing it. And you're like, wait a minute. Like, I know I said it. So maybe some of your listeners are like, okay, I'm having this problem. Maybe, I don't appreciate the way that communication is happening. Or maybe I'm saying something is bothering me and I've explained it and we sat down and talked about it and they're just like not hearing me. And then your mind starts playing tricks on you. Like, did I really say that? Wait a minute. Maybe I just didn't explain myself well. So let me have another conversation. Wait a minute. Let me write it down. Let me write write a letter. And then maybe, they'll get, and this thing happens over and over again, different situations. And you think it's you, that type of thing. You think it's you. Like, I didn't explain myself, I'm not using the right words. But it's not you. That's abuse. Okay. Yeah. And I didn't know that, I didn't know that. So that was one of the things. I think another thing can be isolation. A lot of, and it happens very subtly, it happens very subtly. Maybe for some of your listeners, maybe they like spending time with their friends and they like spending time with their family, but maybe their spouse or the person they're with is always kind of trying to get them disconnected from them. Just spend time with me. You don't. I want to spend time with you. And it sounds good. That's great. You want to spend time with your person, but you should also have other relationships. You should also have access to your friends and your family, different things like that. Yeah. I think also being open to talk about, like, for me, that the situation, was an addiction, but it could be something else. And so I think, once again, going back to communication, being willing and open to talk about the issue and how it's bothering you and not just sweeping things under the rug, not minimizing it. If somebody's minimizing what's important to you or downplaying it, if you bring up something and you brought it up and then later they're like, you never said that. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that. And you start thinking, wait a minute, I know I talked about that. Yeah. That's something called gaslighting, and it's a real thing, So a lot of these things, I think, for women, at least for me, I had to learn about them. Like, I knew something was like not all together there, and I knew something wasn't right, but I couldn't put my finger on it until I started to educate myself, and I even jumped into some therapy to start, really understanding, like, what's going on here, because something's not right. So.
100%, 100%. Now, when you started to take motion to kind of climb out of that, what were the steps? Because, we know that we're in our situation.
Right.
Now, the tough part is going from in the situation to not in the situation.
Right.
So it's difficult sometimes.
It
mentally, emotionally, financially. So what is your story? How did you climb out of your situation?
Oh, man. So I think the pivotal point for me, like I said, I jumped into therapy, and even in therapy, I was educating myself and everything, but I was so concerned about what other people were thinking or what they would think. And I was so concerned about what my spouse would think. And one day my therapist said, she said, "Hey, Sophia, you're going to have to learn to live for an audience of one." And like I said, I'm a God girl, and I knew she was what she was saying. Like she was saying, "Hey, you got to stop looking at all these people, and you got to start looking at what God says about you."
Yeah.
And that gave me like foundation. I already knew that, but sometimes stuff here and you don't know it really here in
Yeah.
your heart. But when she said that, it hit me like, okay, what does he say? What is he saying about me right now? And when I was hearing voices in my head, getting whispers in my ear, like you're not important, you're invisible. When circumstances were telling me that, I had to kind of literally like turn myself the other way and say, okay, like this is a lie. Like what's the truth? So I think first it was internal. My changes became internal, and that gave me the foundation to take some action steps. So after I started getting myself together, then I needed to start building community, because a lot of abuse happens in isolation. Nobody knows what's happening. You're not telling anybody. It's embarrassing. It's very shameful. And so I needed to start talking. It didn't mean I had to shout it from the rooftops, but I needed to start sharing with some people what was happening. And so I got into a support group, and a support group of women going through the same thing, and we were talking, and it gave me that, wait a minute, I'm not by myself.
Yeah.
Like this is a thing.
Yeah.
Like if something happens, I can call somebody, I can text somebody, and they can validate my experience. And so kind of happened, there were staircases. So I got my like my mental foundation together, and then I built the community. I started to see like I'm not the only one. Like this is not right. It gave me a little bit of posture,
Yeah.
some.
Yeah.
And then I started to look at, okay, um how do I want to stay in this situation? There was a lady, her name's Leslie Vernick, and she was really helpful for me. And she said, okay, you can choose, you have choices, you can choose what you want to do. Because I think a lot of times when we're in these type of situations, we don't feel like we have a choice. Like everything's chosen for us. We don't have a voice. And she said, no, you have a choice. You can decide what you want to do. You can decide if you can stay safely and stay well, or if you decide you want to leave, you can decide to leave safely and leave well. And so I think early on, I didn't know, what I was going to do. I was just kind of like, okay. But in the middle of my dealing with recovery and raising my kids and dealing with the abuse, like my health started to break. And that's something that happens for a lot of people. And so I found myself getting really tired.
Yeah.
I wasn't sleeping well. And I'm thinking, like, I'm a mom, like I have 3 kids, like I'm probably just tired, I'm probably tired. But it was one of those like, no, something's not right. And so I chased down a lot of doctors, and they finally found out I had an autoimmune issue. And some your listeners, they may, be dealing with this. A lot of times stress and things like that bring out autoimmune issues. And so once I started to see my body like react, I was like, okay, like we got to do something, because it was almost like in my mind, I was saying, okay, Sophia, you got this. Like you can do this. You can, you're strong. And I am. And I was. But it was like my body was like, okay, no, you can't. Like
Yeah.
make a change. This is not working for you anymore. And so I wound up we wound up separating. Me and my boys went into a DV shelter, and that was really it was hard, but it was a healing process for me. I didn't feel like I was living constantly hyper alert. It was kind of like my body had the chance to go, and calm down. um and my children, it was difficult for them, but children are resilient. They're
Yeah.
very resilient. In fact, before I decided to make that decision, that was one of my primary concerns. Like, what, my kids, like
Yeah.
I'm ruining their lives.
Yeah.
This is horrible. Like I'm gonna move them, and what are we gonna do? And I was very concerned about that. But I made the choice, and just to take the next step. And sometimes that's all you can do. You can't see all the way down the road, all the problems. I said, what's my next best step? And
Yeah.
so I decided to take my next best step. And for me, that was moving into that DV shelter and starting to get myself, back together and get resources. There are resources out there, and a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
And there are resources that I was able to get. Like I said, my therapy, my kids were able to get into play therapy. And that was really helpful for them because I wanted them to be able to know, like, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be upset. Let's learn how to express our emotions, you know? And it was something that we kind of worked on together. Like I was having my therapy and they had their therapy and we would talk, you know, we would come home and they would ask me questions and I learned how to answer their questions in appropriate ways. And that was really helpful for me because, like I said, I thought I was ruining their lives, you know?
Yeah.
But like I said, they're resilient. It was really good. And so that was kind of the next step that I made, you know, started getting myself back together. Um, and eventually we were able to move into our 1 bedroom apartment. And we were so excited. I'm telling you. We were so excited. We were so excited.
I
Um,
love that.
but it's
How was the 1 bedroom set up?
it's a larger 1 bedroom, so all of us are in here. And I was telling somebody yesterday, in fact, or maybe Sunday, I said, you know, sometimes I'm tell my boys, get out of my room. And they're like, it's not your room, it's our room too. So it's really good. We have a larger 1 bedroom, and so we're all in the bedroom. And then I have a little play area. My living room is divided into a play area, and then my living space. And so it's really good.
That's awesome.
Like it's a nice, you know, a nice setup for us.
That's awesome. Yeah, I did that for a while too. And my son had the bedroom.
Yeah.
And because the place that I rented in, there was only air conditioning in the bedroom.
Oh wow. Okay.
And nothing against how you're set up, just the way that I wanted it. Wanted him to have his own space.
Mm-hmm.
And wanted my own space.
Right.
So I actually gave him the entire room.
Right.
And I had my bedroom was set up in the living room. So when you walked into my apartment, you walked into my bedroom.
Yeah, nice though.
You have to do what you have to do, you know, and the options are. And I love your story because a lot of that is a concern for so many women that I talk to as far as space goes.
Yeah.
You know, I have 2 children, I have 3 children.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can make a 1 bedroom easily work.
Yeah.
As long as the atmosphere and the mental and emotional state that you're bringing to the table is healthy, they don't know any of the difference.
They surely don't. They really
don't.
In fact, we're in the shelter, you know, I it's so true. Like my attitude, it went first. And I could have been like, oh my God, this is, you know, like all this thing. And it was very like they did for reasons, I guess they don't want you to feel comfortable. Like this is not your home. This is temporary, you know? So they didn't allow any type of decorations, no curtains, don't hang anything on the wall, you know, very sterile. Think dorm room when you first get there. That's kind of like how it was. And I could have been like, oh, you know, this is, you know, horrible. But it was my kids were looking at me and I was the leader and they were going to say, okay, how does mom, you know, deal with this? And we called it our temporary apartment. I said, our temporary apartment and we're going to, you know, and so we made it ours, you know, and then at night we would pray like, Lord, this is our temporary apartment. Please bless us with something. So I took them through that journey and this was our home, you know, this was our home. And so it's so true. Like the attitude that you bring into it, that's how your children are going to carry it.
I love that. And that's 100%.
Yeah.
That's 100%. It's all based around how the leader is viewing it.
Yeah.
And that's in all things.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's in all things. Even in the weak thing that you're holding for your children. You know, they're like what you were saying earlier before we got online with your son being the leader.
Yeah.
You know, that's who they look to.
We're watching. Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching.
It's 100%.
Yeah.
So through all of this and the journey that you've been through, when did you start becoming interested in beauty? Because you said you've been in it for a while. So this was
this is college days.
So what is it's just always been a thing?
It's always been a thing. But I think that this experience, it just challenged me to take it a little bit deeper. Like for myself, it was always deep. Like I know, you know, it's about what's your character, you know, what's on your inside. That's how my parents raised me. And but I've always had fun helping women to look good on the outside, because as women, it's connected. Like and a good example was this pandemic, because I know everybody, including myself, for a minute after that whole afterward, like in our houses, and I don't need to get up. I'm not putting on no makeup. I'm not doing my hair, like nothing. And you just start feeling like,
Yeah.
and I remember one day I'm like, wait a minute, this is enough. Sophia, this is enough. Like, let me get up, let me do my hair, let me put on some makeup. And I remember I did it that day, and it just lifted. Like, it just lifted my feeling. And I'm like, wait, this is important, And so I told women, I said, when you get up and when you do your hair and when you do your makeup, not that everything's all about the outside, but it's telling your brain, it's reminding your brain that you matter,
Yeah.
And so I've always had that interest, but through this whole journey of mine, this experience, I wanted to show women that beauty, I wanted to redefine it for them, because with me, with going through this addiction, like I said, I was very challenged. It was very, my how I thought about myself, my personal identity, all of that was attacked, and I didn't feel beautiful, I didn't feel like I was walking with value. I know where my value comes from, but it was just like constantly in my ear, I was hearing, like, my experiences were telling me otherwise, no, you're not. No, you're not. And so I wanted to help women to understand where their value comes from. And I think I wanted to do that because I thought back to when I was a little girl. And a lot of times society, you can go in the store and just look at the magazines, and it's just always telling women and telling girls, like, what's important is the outside. What you look like is very important. What you wear is very important. This is what matters. This is what matters. And if you hear that enough, then you start to build your life around that. And so I think even though I was raised differently, I think subconsciously in my mind, like, that was always back there. And so I think that if I would have really honed in on, okay, this is what beauty is, this is how it's defined, maybe when some of those things before I got married would have, those things, those red flags that I can look back now, pre-marriage, maybe I would have paid more attention to them, I guess I could say, and been like, or maybe I would have said, you know what, this is making me uncomfortable. No, I don't want to deal with this. And I would have had the confidence to do that because I wasn't so much worried about what somebody thought of me or what I would be without somebody, all those things that we have to deal with. And so that's where my interest, my redefined beauty, that's the message that I feel like I'm challenged to get out. This is what you need to hear for us older ladies, for us, younger ladies. I want to start it when we're young. And then for us now that are like, okay, let's redefine my life now as it is, So that's kind of where that came in.
100%. 100%. That's it. I didn't even think, I don't want to say I didn't even think, but I didn't even think to bring that up as far as the emotional turmoil that kind of goes through a woman's mind when dealing with somebody who watches porn on a regular basis. And I know that there's this whole facade that everybody does it or all guys do it, and I'm going to disagree with that like 100%. I have had plenty of men in my life, and I know for certain that they've seen porn, and I also know for certain that they do not partake in it. It's not something that we as women have to settle for,
right.
As far as it's normal.
Right.
And I also, you touching on that, as far as you can act like you're strong and you can act like you're confident in who you are and your body and your face and how you are sexually. But it takes an emotional inner, peace. Some turmoil happens internally that you have to deal with.
Yeah. It definitely does. I mean, and I've been a part of those conversations too. Like, oh, it's just porn. Like, everybody, that's not a thing.
Exactly.
It's a thing. And I'm like, I will be the one to swim upstream and say it's a thing. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, All y'all can say whatever you want to say. Like, I think society, like, I don't know. They want us to think it's a thing and that everybody, it's not that serious. And I learned so much. I mean, I learned so much. And I say I'm gonna stand on my platform and I'm gonna say not everybody, partakes. And even if you wanted to say that they did, you cannot say that there is no impact on the person.
Yeah.
Person. There is definitely an impact. I'm a living witness, like
Yeah.
little things, big things. I remember in the beginning, I I couldn't walk down the street. Like I would probably walk down the street with my head like because I didn't want to, like, if we went out somewhere together, my brain was like, oh my, like, oh my god, is he what is he doing? What is he looking at? And I had to, it was very uncomfortable for me. And he could
Yeah.
have, like, he may not have been looking at anything, but for me, I was so concerned.
Yeah.
And it was just, it really affected my everyday, my everyday um, living. It
Yeah.
really did. And so
Yeah.
it really has an impact. And you have to unpack all of that stuff. It's a job.
Yeah.
You have to unpack all of that stuff as you're working to heal. And so, yeah.
And even just you while they're dealing with that addiction or however you want to define that, so caught up in them dealing with that there's no space or seems to be very little space for the communication of what the female is enduring while he's trying to figure that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's the conversation with that? And then not only where's the conversation with that, but then how uncomfortable that you have to be put in a situation, or a female has to be put in a situation to even bring that up.
Yes.
Because that in itself, even bringing it up shows or could be viewed as not being confident or having low self-esteem or needing reassurance.
Yes. Yeah.
So it puts us in a horrible situation in general.
Yeah. Yeah. It really, really does. I remember feeling you don't want to bring it up. I mean, it's already like,
yeah.
And then you have to bring it up because it's like the elephant in the room. Like, nobody's gonna talk about it. But I felt like I needed to talk about it, and for me, like, that was a part of what was supposed to be a part of our healing. Like, let's talk about it, But I think that there's a lot of shame on both sides. There's so much shame on both sides. And when that got in the middle, it was like, I'm willing, if I on my side, like, I'm willing to stand in my shame and let's talk about this. It don't have to be from both sides. Like, if I'm willing to stand in my shame and talk about it and you're not, like, that's, then I get, it's not that serious. Why are you bringing this up again? We already talked about this, like, And so definitely for a lot of women, that whole experience, like I said, it's the surprise. It's not the severity of it, because if somebody was anticipating it and inspecting it, it's not going to have the same effect. But when you're kind of like, I'm doing life and all of a sudden something hits you, with blue, you're like, whoa, and it really does a number. It really does a number on you.
Yeah. So that whole experience, where you are now, how has that changed how you were viewing beauty? I mean, has that impacted kind of, how you're coaching or how you're teaching or how you're...
I think one thing that I really, I mean, it was true before, but I really, got it under my belt. This thing was not my fault. I didn't cause this thing. It wasn't me that made this problem appear. And for a while, that's what it was explained. Like, this is you. And so that me internalizing that, I had to work to unpack that. And so I think if I could say that's where my whole beauty thing shifted, it more, I wouldn't say it was some new thing that I adopted. I would say that I walked it out differently. Before I internalized it, I'm like, okay, this is this is you, so you have to do differently. Like, you have to dress differently, you have to talk differently, you have to be interested in the things that this person's interested in, because you don't want to, cause any problems, and they're going to get mad, and then they're going to look at porn. Like, you, so
Wow.
all of that, and I had to separate. Like, this is your thing. Not that not that I didn't want to help if I could, but this is your responsibility to fix. Like, this is your choice, this is your problem, you need to take care of this. And so once I was able to separate myself from that, then I was able to look at, okay, what do I need in this situation? What do I need? How do I feel safe? What do I need to bring into my space so that I can feel safe? What do I need to get rid of so that I can feel safe? So I'll say that's where the beauty thing came from. I didn't have to attach my beauty to his mess, I guess.
Yeah.
That's kind of where the separation.
100%. What's your definition of beauty?
So I came up with this acronym. Like I said, I want women to redefine what beauty is. It's not just, I'm all about the glam, but it's not just that. So my B is that I want women to believe what's already spoken, believe what God has already spoken. Because like I said, when you're hearing lies, like you're not worth, or when circumstances are telling you you're invisible, when that stuff gets in your head, you start living like that. You start believing it. You start walking around like that. And so I needed to stop listening to that and said, okay, no matter what I'm hearing, no matter what I'm experiencing, I'm going to believe what God has already spoken. Like, that was a choice. Okay. And then the next one is E. So then I needed to exchange the enemy's lies for the truth. So if I'm hearing like, oh, let's say you're nobody, you're not worth whatever, that's a lie. Like, it's a lie. And so then I'm going to take, and this is very tangible. It was very tangible for me. So I'm going to take, for me, a verse in the Bible. Okay, God says I'm his workmanship. He put me together. No, I'm not going to believe this lie that I'm not worth anything. No, I'm going to believe that God said he formed me, he crafted me, I'm special. So it's something very tangible for me to do. And then let's see, the next one is A. We want to accept our limitations. So this was a little bit challenging, because what I wanted to do when I was hit with all of that was it was almost like I was tempted to make myself more than I was,
Yeah.
I wanted to make up for what I was being told or what I was experiencing. But I had to realize, like, okay, I have limitations too, and that's okay. I can't say yes to everybody. I can't say yes to everything. And I can't even be everything for everybody. Like, it was not my job to step into the mess of the addiction and try to fix that whole thing. That wasn't my job. I can't be that everything for him in that case. That wasn't me. So I needed to learn how to accept, in this situation, that limitation, and we all have our limitations, and I think we can get on a hamster wheel. And I think for a lot of women, the whole people pleasing thing, like, everybody wants me to do it, I'm going to say yes, 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 yes. And then you end up burning yourself out. I think part of that is because we don't want to accept the fact that we have limitations, because we feel like it makes us less than. And I don't believe it's true. So I want women to learn how to accept their limitations. And then U is uniqueness. We all have a gift, I had to learn how to walk in my uniqueness. Like, I'm me. I like these things. I don't like these things. And not have to worry that what I liked or what I didn't like was kind of going to deter people, And it might deter some people, but that's okay. They're not my people, They're not my people. And so I needed to learn how to walk, take steps in the uniqueness that I was created with, right?
Yep.
And T, I'm going to trust the process. So with this journey, you don't just wake up and find yourself in the middle of, trauma in the middle. I mean, sometimes you do, but a lot of times it's kind of a gradual process, like things that you didn't see. And a lot of times it's just one moment that kind of like explodes everything. And with the healing process, I think a lot of women, we expect it to be overnight. Like, okay, I realize what's happening, and then I'm gonna wake up. And we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Like, why don't I feel better? Why can't I do the things that I used to do? Why does this still trigger me? Like, why am I getting so, all of that kind of stuff? But it's a process, it's a journey. And so we have to trust the process, that in the same way that you got into the mess, like, you kind of got to get out the mess in that same step-by-step, process. It takes some time. But you got to trust the process. And so I always say, you look forward and you say, what's my next best step? For me, I wanted to try to see 5 years down the road. And when I was making choices, it made that very difficult because, like, say for my children, when I'm thinking about, oh, should I move into this shelter? I'm looking 5 years down the road, like, oh, my kids are gonna fail high school, like, all this thing.
Yeah.
I had to think, like, what is my next best step?
Yeah.
One step at a time. So trust the process, look at what your next best step is, and then take that step, right?
Yeah.
And then last, say yes to the best. So for a lot of us, we can be tempted to say yes to the good and not the best. And when I was living in my situation, good for me was maintaining. I can maintain this. I can live in survival mode. That's good. Everybody's going to be together. Yeah, I might be a little bit uncomfortable, but I can do this. I can do this. But was that the best thing for me? So I had to make a choice between the good and between the best. And I want women to say yes to the best. And so that's kind of how I put together beauty. Let's redefine it. Let's not get rid of our other definitions, but let's redefine it to include some more things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is that what you teach?
Yes. Yeah. This is,
And
I love, like I said, I love working with women on the outside and everything too, but like, let's dig a little bit deeper, let's dig a little bit deeper and let's shake some things up.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And I love how so much of it encompasses our mental and emotional beauty versus just our outer beauty.
Yeah. That's where it counts.
100%. 100%. So since I have you here, what are the changes you're looking to make, when it comes to the mindset, when it comes to the emotional mental health of women? What's like your ideal? What are you focusing on?
So for women that have gone through something like this already, like, I want to make sure that they have these things locked down, because I think it really transforms the way you think, and it can even allow them to heal. I want to help cut the process. Healing can take a long time. And if you're like, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to, like I was like that, and so I want to help them shorten the journey, for the women that are already, or that are going through something like this. But then I also have a really big passion for young people, because like I said, if I would have had some of these truths under my belt, a lot of young girls out there, they're trying to fit the mold, they're believing what everybody else says about them. If you tell me I'm ugly, okay, I need to fix this. I need to go to the mall. I need to buy some clothes. I need to, spend money on this. I need to be in this relationship because, that's what you told me. And so I want to help undergird them with these foundational truths so that as they grow, they can already start walking them out, so that when some of this stuff hits them, they're like, no, I believe the truth of what God already said. Like, I don't have to hear that. No, I'm going to say yes to the best. I'm not just going to say yes to the good, So I want to help them do that. So that's kind of what I'm looking to do. I want to shake things up a little bit. I want to help redefine. So when we go into the store and when we see a stupid magazine title that tries to tell us who we are, or who we're not, that we can be like, no, no, that's not me. So that's what I want to do.
I love that. Absolutely. I love that. So women who are interested in everything that you're saying, what sort of coaching do you do? Like, what is the 1, 2, 3 step of what you're doing and who you are?
So this is pretty individualized, because I'm doing individual right now. So I basically take them through this process, but it depends. It's kind of tailored to the woman. So maybe I meet a woman and we're talking and we're in my DMs, and after we do the assessment, she finds out, okay, I have my B down. Like, I believe what God has spoken, like I'm good. I'm good there. But let's say that she's not, trusting the process,
Got it.
It's not just trusting the process, but maybe it's a specific area. Let's say her health has been affected,
Got it.
To figure out a process for that. It's pretty particular to the person that I'm working with. So I help women to walk through redefining beauty for themselves and what it looks like in their life.
Beautiful. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And what do you have going on in the future? What's coming up?
Oh my gosh. So like I said, what I want to do, because like I said, this is individual beauty redefined. But I am looking to take that and turn it into a course, because there are a lot of women that are working through this. A lot of women that are going through these type of issues, and I'm only one person.
Yeah.
I'm only
Yeah.
one person. So I would love to. I'm working on making this into a course so that more women can become involved. And then my youth, like I said, my young people. And this is long range, but mentorship is very important to me. That side by side, somebody to walk with you in your stuff. A lot of young ladies need that. And a lot of young ladies are growing up in communities, or even in families where they don't really have that. And so to be able to pair those young ladies with someone a little bit further down the road, somebody they can feel comfortable with, to open up to connect to. I really want to do that. And so that's kind of my long range goal, a mentorship program for young ladies.
I love that. And that is so needed.
Yeah.
That is so needed because you're kind of thrown into adulthood
Yeah. You don't,
and you're supposed to navigate through finances,
yeah,
which is not necessarily taught to us
right,
because the man is supposed to take care of that.
right,
So you're thrown into not knowing anything about finances. So right away, that sets you up for financial abuse.
right,
And then no one tells you specifically what is appropriate and not appropriate behavior from your male counterpart.
right, right. And out here figuring it out for themselves.
Yeah.
And then when you pair that with not having the foundation of, what we talked about with Beauty Redefined, you're just in for trouble,
Yep.
because you're trying to deal with that, but you still want to be accepted,
Yep.
you want people to like you, and you're telling yourself who I am is determined by the amount of people or the type of people that I have in my space, or what I have in my closet, or what I have in my wallet. And it just prepares you for mess. Like you're just getting yourself going down the road to a whole lot of hot mess.
100%. 100%. And even just that, like what you were saying with the beauty, so many with the social media right now, it's just, it's all about just the outer beauty and they forget
Yeah, yeah,
it's deeper than that.
yeah.
It's
It's,
deeper than that.
I am thankful. I mean, I've had to work through my experience, but I am thankful that I'm not in my teens right now, because they have a lot. I did not have social media. They have a lot of social media, and that alone, I had to deal with, a person telling me, but now they have multiple people, telling them, like, seconds, just like this, all the time, like, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to wear, this is what you need, and it's
Yeah.
a lot for them.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. I totally agree with you. Oh, this was wonderful.
Yes, I enjoyed it. It was great.
This was wonderful. Thank you so much for, like I said, taking some time. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Oh man, I think if I could leave you with anything, I think I would say, like we talked about before, remember who you are, remember who God created you to be. I gave an example one time of just how crazy it would be if you are an artist and you make something, you get your material together, your supplies together, and let's say you are pottery, you make pottery, and you design this beautiful pottery, and you paint it, and you do all the pottery things that I don't know, and then you put it on display, and you put your price tag on it. Let's say it's $1,000 because of all the time you put into it, all the effort, all the energy, research, everything. And then somebody from down the street comes and they're like, it's not worth $1,000, $20 tops. As crazy as that would be,
Yeah.
somebody else to come and determine what your art is worth, that's how crazy it is for somebody to come along and say, this is what you're worth, because God already put his price tag, and
I love that.
his son died, that's a huge tag, a huge price tag for somebody else to come along and say, you're not worth that. No.
I love that.
So
Absolutely.
remember who you are.
I love that. How can people find you?
So I'm on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Sophia Giraldo. I'm also on Instagram, and I'm always in my DMs at Sophia Renee Giraldo. And you can also check out my website, my name again, www.sophiagiraldo.com.
That makes it real easy for people, so that's good. Is this your Insta? Sophia. Oh, I did it wrong. Sophia Giraldo. Just need the A, right?
My
Okay.
name is in there too. Sophia
Okay.
Renee, Giraldo.
So pretty much how you have it right there. Sophia Giraldo. And that's your Insta.
My Insta is at Sophia Renee Giraldo.
Oh, Renee. How you spell Renee?
Renee.
Sophia Renee. Let's see if I got that one right. Oh, snap. Sophia Renee.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. And I'll be putting all your links in your description and all that stuff underneath the video. And you can also, but this is uploaded to YouTube. So in YouTube, I'll have the description, all of that jazz on there. I am going to ask you to reach out to Jody. I don't know if you saw, she was messaging quite a bit on here. But she mentioned possibly having you speak at her high school. So maybe reach out to her when we're done here and drop a direct message to her, and so you guys can link up. So thank you so much for joining us here today, Sophia.
Oh, thank you.
On her version. For those of you listening, if you have an amazing story to share of struggle to triumph, be sure to reach out to me here or at herversion.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I am so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others. Have an amazing day. Much love.